Hi, my name is Rebecca Lee, and I co-wrote this book, The Mercury Detoxification Manual with Andy Cutler, PhD. And I sometimes think that I am doomed to experience all the problems that people get who come to me for help. Well, not all of them, because mercury causes a good 250 different symptoms. But one of the more intractable problems people get is their digestive system malfunctioning. And I got a good dose of that. I do think that these gastric issues are often driven by stress, because my big problem started at the same time as the COVID restrictions and lockdowns and so forth. It got so I could barely eat anything without it turning into molten lava in my stomach. And I suspected this or that cause. And I wondered if it was the MSG that the Jamaicans gobble down so much of, with absolutely nothing bad happening to them. Whereas a lot of bad things happen to us when we eat bad food. I had to pretty much stop eating everything, and I lost 20 pounds. The situation got better on its own, but I still was chugging down soda bicarb in quantity to remedy heartburn. I went to the doctor in Jamaica, and I got tested for Helicobacter pylori with a blood test, which came back negative. I was really disappointed, because I was ready to take the proton pump inhibitors and the antibiotics if I had to, but apparently I didn't. Later I discovered that the anti-inflammatory herb cat's claw, what do we got right here? Here we go, the cat's claw, this is what I use. Helped enormously, as does gum mastic, which is this. This is very good too. That's what I've used. Now I only have an occasional flare of the problem, and I hardly ever need bicarbonate of soda anymore. But one of the supplement companies I deal with through my online dispensary, Fullscript, contacted me about a new product they have developed to control H-Pylori. A research scientist at the company called Kiran Krishnan gave a lecture on YouTube, which I found really, really interesting, and I think you will too. This company, Microbiome Labs, specializes in the use of probiotic bacteria to control common problems in a way that won't injure you further, as taking proton pump inhibitor and two powerful antibiotics certainly has the capacity to do. It can knock down the H. pylori, but mess with something else in the meantime. This scientist, Dr. Krishnan, started off by describing H. pylori and what it does in your body. It is a gram-negative spiral bacterium that grows in the stomach and proximal part of the small intestine. It can drill into the mucosal layers in order to avoid the immune system. And I will add, according to Andy Cutler, that the immune system of mercury-toxic people is already impaired, so there is that going on too. It may not be searching out this bacterium as vigorously as it ought to be doing. H. pylori causes big problems in the gastric epithelium and the intestinal epithelium. The epithelial cells are the special cells that line these different organs. Dr. Krishnan informs us that 50% of the world's population has H. pylori at infectious levels, and 30% of those 50% have some kind of symptoms. I have to wonder if it is not just present in everyone, but more in balance in healthy people, like E. coli. Everybody has it, but in some people it is out of control and causing problems. H. pylori is very communicable, spreads very easily, so a zero H. pylori policy is probably not possible. Dr. Krishnan suggests a, quote, mindset of maintenance. The pathogen can cause a whole lot of problems. The WHO has labeled it a class 1 carcinogen, so I guess you don't want to have it actively causing symptoms for a long time. When it gets going, infesting the gastric mucosa, it alters stomach acid levels by secreting urease, which converts the stomach's hydrochloric acid into ammonia. The ammonia, as well as being outright toxic to the intestines, lowers the stomach's acidity to create an environment which this bacterium likes. The ammonia leaches down and drives inflammation and pH-driven dysbiosis in the rest of the intestines as well, making the environment hospitable for other opportunistic pathogens. It also eats away at the mucosal lining, which is how you get ulcers. Andy mentions an amalgam illness, which is this book here, how ulcers, until recently, were considered to be entirely psychosomatic. After years of intense criticism, he writes, and ridicule, about 20 years after the research was published, it has finally been accepted that most ulcers are due to Helicobacter pylori infections and can be cured with appropriate antibiotic therapy. I don't think that one should overlook the role stress can play in getting something like that going out of control, though. I certainly think it played a role in my case. Toxic people don't have very good adrenal function, and I have noticed that as soon as my adrenal glands get overtaxed, my gut goes out of whack. So perhaps those old doctors that didn't know about the relationship between H. pylori and ulcers weren't totally off base. Dr. Krishnan describes H. pylori as creating, quote, inflammatory soup. A couple of the inflammatory mechanisms can specifically lead to the formation of cancer cells in the stomach, and the inflammatory soup can lead to cancers in other parts of the body too, presumably when this stuff gets really out of control. He also mentions the gelding theory, in which high levels of inflammation are associated with low testosterone in men and anti-sperm antibodies in women. This phenomenon is presumably because getting pregnant is the last thing you want to have happen when you are full of inflammation. The, quote, systematic inflammatory soup can also be associated with Parkinson's disease, liver problems, heart problems, circulatory system problems, thyroid problems, dental caries, and colorectal polyps. H. pylori can stay subclinical for decades, he points out, doing its dirty work in secret. But in general, the symptoms when you get them are nausea, gastric pain, vomiting, loss of appetite, dyspepsia, and it drives all kinds of systemic issues with the way it causes inflammation. The best test for this thing is a breath test, which tests for urea and ammonia, which are easy to detect. I got a blood test in Jamaica, but I think I'm going to try a breath test now that I'm back in the States to see if this thing shows up. The conventional treatment for H. pylori is called triple therapy and is a proton pump inhibitor, or PPI, plus 2 rounds of ferocious antibiotics, which can come at the cost of messing up your digestive system, even if it does bring your H. pylori levels way down. Dr. Krishnan points out that any practitioner can expect 50% of his clients to have H. pylori, and it could well be behind or contributing to a whole host of problems. He goes on to suggest his company's new product, which, quote, utilizes the power of microbes to specifically deal with problems without causing peripheral damage. This product is called PyloGuard and is a postbiotic version of Lactobacillus reuteri, DSM 17648, which, when it encounters the H. pylori, forms co-aggregates, which neutralizes the stuff and removes it from the body. Sounds a bit like what chelators do to heavy metals. He maintains that it only messes with H. pylori and not with any other bacteria. It has, quote, a high precision for the egregious pathogen, is how he puts it. I will not describe what he has to say more than that. You should listen to the video, and I will put a link. The video will reinforce your understanding of how H. pylori works, and perhaps you will be inspired to try this product, which is called PyloGuard and is made by Microbiome Labs. I have not tried it myself, but I think I will. I like to try things to see what they do. Remember to sign up for my online dispensary, Fullscript. It is available to people who live in the USA. I offer a 25% discount, and you can buy this and many other products there, and I have included a link where you can sign up. So please like and share and do all of those good things, and thank you for listening.